Hello, this is Sheryl and Claire. Welcome to NeuroTRYvergent, an experiment in living and working without the mask. It's a podcast where we discuss navigating career change and just existing in the world as a neurodivergent human. I'm Sheryl, an ADHD adult moving from being a professional nanny to a positive discipline trainer and parent educator / consultant. And Claire is a late diagnosed ADHD adult and founder of Wizard's Way Career Path Mapping. Her business is a combination of career coaching for neurodivergent folks, plus e-course and workbooks. If you'd like to learn more about us, our links are in the description. Each week, we pick a topic and talk about the initial thoughts, the pros and cons, and the balance of each concept. Then try a 2-week experiment and discuss how it went the following episode. So last week's experiment topic was strengths. How'd it go, Claire?
All right. So overarching instructions were to do some sort of strengths assessment. Maybe that's like a formal one, either like the VIA character or the Gallup-Clifton, or to use another method like asking some people that really know you, hey, can you text me what do you think my 5 top strengths are? And then looking for patterns there. So the first one was like just do an actual assessment, see what your strengths are, and see if that kind of feels good with what you know. And then the second part was where are you already applying this, and where are some new areas you might want to apply your strengths. So I kind of bounce back and forth between the different assessments. So I spent a lot of time working with my Gallup-Clifton one, and I really like that. But for this, I decided to spend a little bit more time in the VIA one. And I have the kind of brain that I don't know if I'm doubting myself. This always happens in my brain. So I think I can't remember anything unless it's written down. And I think that's mostly true, right? Or maybe it's like I can remember it, but it's never in the forefront of my mind. And so I've got like post-its all over the place. In like you can't see them because they're just off the screen to remind myself. And so this is my like little sign here. Um, my quick reminder of what my top 5 strengths were. So what I was kind of trying to do was I super relate to my top 5 VIAs. Like I'm like, yes, 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 yes. So it was pretty easy for me to find places that I do these things already. So what I found most useful in experimenting and playing with was looking at areas where I'm struggling and thinking about how maybe one of these strengths could help. And in fact, I was just I'm in the middle of ADCA, the ADD Coaching Academy classes. And David, the guy that created the program, was talking to us about how, like, it's kind of rare for these to show up as just one strength. They often show up in pairs. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, I'll look at that and see, like, where could a pair of these um, actually help in a challenging situation. So right now, my son just finished kindergarten and he's getting ready to go into his summer camps, and he has a really hard time with transitions. And so his behaviors and like what he's experiencing just tends to kind of go to 11 on the scale. And I was really having a hard time with that. It was really affecting me. I'm an empath. I think I might have mentioned that before. So when I'm around other people, I lose my own emotions. I don't feel my own emotions. I feel other people's, and especially if they're strong. So I decided that what if I used curiosity and bravery to look at this situation? So the bravery is just like, this is tough for me. And so, what if I just be brave and believe that it's going to work out? What if I just, to me, that's a bravery thing, right? Like, what if I just be brave and if I go through this, it's going to work out. And then the curiosity was more around like, can I figure out what little dude is experiencing? Like, what is he? What is it like to be him in this world? And he hasn't really developed like the ability to talk about that much. So I have to kind of be really creative. There's another one in how I try and get insight into his world. So what I noticed the most about activating these strengths was that it took my anxiety down several notches. And it was like, okay, I have a path, I have some hope, and I'm not just feeling like all the time with it. I'm feeling like, okay, I think I can get through this. So, yeah. Whew. Big exhale. How about you?
Um, I did the VIA thing to see what my strengths were. Um, and it ended up being apparently in this order: love or valuing close relations with others, humor, liking to laugh and tease, bringing smiles, um, love of learning, mastering new skills, topics, and bodies of knowledge, fairness, treating all people the same according to notions of fairness and justice, and then bravery, not shrinking from threat, challenge, difficulty, or pain. Um, and then followed closely by perspective and leadership and creativity. So those were my strengths. And the cool thing was that I got a lot of those back from other people, right? Like when other people gave me strengths, I really liked it. And it was really nice to get those strengths from other people. And how other people see me. I'm very curious about that. Like, not in a necessarily like a pride way or like a, I don't know, like do I look okay kind of way, although I do that too, obviously. Vanity, but just is in like, I can't see myself from the outside. I can't see what my own, like I remember when I was really little asking my mom, like, why can I only see out of my eyes? Why can't I see out of other people's? Which is like an interesting question to ask to compare it. I was just like, I couldn't understand it, Like I was like, why is it that we only get one perspective? And it was just kind of sad to me that I couldn't like hop into other people's perspectives and like, I don't know, just like that level of curiosity um was just really, really important to me. And so yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of my strengths um are, I don't know, like I'm really proud of. I feel just proud of them, like, and because they also are very highly tied to my values, which I mean, I suppose doesn't necessarily always have to be the case. So for me, they are, and that's really nice. I thought it was funny how high humor was on the list. So I suppose that that's something that people think of, that's just something that's really important to me. But and then the love, valuing close relationships with others, especially when reciprocated and being close to people. I think that that's something for me. I don't let a ton of people into my inner circle, and I'm also an introvert, so I just like wear out a lot with people. But like, I have no problem. Like, part of the reason why I don't let a lot of people in is because once I once I love you, I love you. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going anywhere. What do you need from me? Like, we're a family. Like, that's it. And so it was just very interesting to see that kind of thing unfold, and like how it's shown up for me as a nanny. And like, I'm like, yeah, this is yes, it's your child, but like it's my baby too now. Like, I'm not, not like have a vested interest in this child. Um, yeah, so I think seeing how the love, one of the things that I noticed with the love and like trying to use that as a strength for me and notice how it shows up for me is in my relationships, like if there's something hard to go over, it doesn't matter. I want to work it out because I care about it. You know what I mean? Like I'm not afraid. Like I want to be honest because I love this other person and I want to figure it out, right? Like I don't need to, like I'll get over a lot of stuff, even my own ego, which is like amazing. because um because that's it. That's just how it goes, you know. So I don't know. It was very interesting to see how that kind of showed up in my life. Yeah,
Just
so
very
good.
cool. And I think it's actually really relates a lot to what we're going to be talking about today. Um, to the people watching, I just want to say, like, I am in an incredibly stimmy mood right now, and I I drink water as a stim almost. So if you see me drinking water all the time, and you're like, "What is she doing? Couldn't she just wait until she's off camera?" I could, but I would be not a happy, regulated human. Um, before I introduce today's topic, I'm going to light a pink candle. And I think there's probably multiple ways to interpret colors of candles, but one way for pink candles is happiness, love, self-love, and esteem. So I thought that fit well. Um, Cheryl and I kind of, when we were thinking about, we just kind of put out an after show episode because we wanted to, every once in a while, we want to have a moment where we pause and look at the whole and think about how it's going for us. And in doing that and kind of looking through and sharing our after show shenanigans, um, we both kind of said like I want to have one that feels personal. I want to have an episode next that feels like um, deeper and personal. And I think it was you that came up with the idea, and I was like, yes, that's it. And so what we want to talk about with you today is why this friendship right here, you're that way, you're that way, I'm that way, up and down, wherever you are on your screen, why this friendship works and why others can be challenging. And I hope that when you're watching this, you can use it as like you can watch us and hear what we're saying about each other, but that you can also each of you can kind of think about your own relationships with others, right? And if there's things like you relate to with what we're saying in both the what works and what doesn't. Um, I know as an autistic human, um, this is an area where I've realized the older I get that I actually really do struggle. I love that you were bringing up, like, I have very few friends, and these are the reasons, and I very much relate to what you said. Um, I being a social introvert, I always thought I made friends really easily and that wasn't an issue for me. But like when I'm doing the work now and when I'm looking at it, I see, and it's actually what got me to diagnosis too, was I just repeatedly can be challenged by understanding other humans and the choices that they make. And so this topic is very dear to me. Why this friendship works and why others can be challenging. And we're going to play around with our format a little bit. It's still basically the same, but instead of splitting up the pros and the cons, each of us is going to talk about them in a group. So Cheryl's going to talk about the pros and the cons first, then I am, and then we're going to have some discussion time where we get to react to each other because that feels very valuable to us. And then we'll go from there to finding the balance and living with the paradox. So, Cheryl, I'd love to pass off to you and get your perspective about friendship.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought that this was a really cool idea because we do, I mean, I think I've said it every single time right before we go off air, or not off air, but off our Zoom call is like, you and I work really well together. Like it just is easy, right? And it just like kind of flows. Um, and like one of the things we were talking about when we were looking at our strengths was the bravery strength. I think we both really link up on that one because we're um, like, oh yeah, I'm not afraid of this. Like, I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried about like how this is, I don't, it doesn't matter. It has to get done. There's like some kind of thought of that where it's like I we can push through or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, this is scary, but what's scarier to us or to me at least, and I don't know if it's the same, but it seems like what's scarier is either the remaining stagnant or not the learning or not the, you know what I mean, whatever the thing is that we're trying to get to is it just we're practiced at being very brave and saying it doesn't matter what is in front of me, we're gonna do it. And so that's, I mean, that's amazing. And I think when we get together, it can be even more so, right? Like, because we amplify each other. So, we're doing all of these experiments and pushing each other all to, all of that together, even more so when, like when you have a friend who's on your side, it always feels a little bit easier and less scary. So it even requires less bravery to do some things for us. And I think we're also very honest with each other. We're very open about things. Like there have been many times where we've talked to each other and been like, hey, could we do this instead of that? Like, or, like talking with each other about like issues or anything like that, or what's going on in our head or why we're thinking a certain way. Like there's that openness and vulnerability aspect that we don't have it. Like it's just like, hey, look, I'm gonna put this out here and let me know what you think. So yeah, I've been called a straight shooter before, and I believe the same would go for for Claire. Um, and then and then a and then the curiosity, and self reflection, self curiosity, as well as like external curiosity of why is this happening and why is that happening. And our friend, a mutual friend of ours, and if she's watching, uh, uh, linked us up and was like, "You guys need to be friends," and she was so right. um, and even when we have some issues, right? Like, I'm not gonna lie and say that part of the reason that I started this podcast wasn't because I wanted to spend more time with Claire, and the only way I could do that was to make a podcast so that we would have a project to do together. She's very busy, and so I'm like, I want your time. I'm taking it, and like, and so even when it's stuff like that, it's not like we're not like I don't ever feel like it's like a personal thing. It's just like, Claire's so busy and a busy person, and like, all right, well, I'll figure it out. I will rope her in, and she will never be able to resist a new project. But yeah, so I think we are curious and like to share things, and even when we come across some things that are tough or even tough that we know is going to be tough to talk with the other person about, like, you know um like wanting to do things a certain way or not wanting to do things a certain way, it's easy to kind of speak about it with each other, um and assume that the other person is coming from a good place. And I don't think that I've always gotten that with other friends. And that can be really challenging for me. Is like there are a couple of things that are really hard. People who can't be deep, I have a really hard time being. And I'm not saying that, not to judge or say that's a bad thing. Like that's fine. We all need all types in this world, but like for me, it's just not a satisfying thing. And then people who I can't have honest conversations about our relationship is like it's a difficult kind of thing. And then very close people are the people who put in as like not as maybe not as much, but put in effort. Because I can't do that. And so finding someone who's willing to put in the effort and willing to be deep and honest and vulnerable is a hard thing to find a lot of the time. And so I think that those are the reasons why a lot of friendships don't work for me. Um, but this one does. Also, you're very secure. So I can say the things I want to say in a blunt way, and I feel like safe doing that and not like you're gonna like fall apart from me being honest and kind of blunt sometimes. So I don't have to police myself nearly as much as I would with maybe other people. So yeah, I don't know if that was the prompt, but that's how I did it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Um, so we're going to get a chance to discuss in a little bit. So I'm going to rein myself in and not discuss all the wonderful things you said. Um, so when I think about what works, right? And why this friendship is has really been a model for what friendship and what sisterhood is. A couple of things come to mind, and there's some overlap, but I'll try to give my angle here. And I think and the chance of me getting emotional is pretty high. So just saying. So the one of the biggest ones is acceptance. And like Sheryl has been around me in some of my worst times. Like when, just to give an example, like my son was 3 months old and I fell down the stairs and shattered my leg and couldn't take care of my kid, couldn't walk, had like PTSD from bone trauma, which I learned that's a thing, like that when our bones get shattered, like it has an effect on a lot of us. I was just in bad shape. I had a full-on identity crisis. I was probably already entering identity crisis from like becoming a mother at 45 or whatever age I was. Um, and then that happened, and I was just a flippin' mess. Um, and and that's just one example of many. And not only did you not run away, but you like leaned in and you yeah, and it was just like there was never a, oh, you're broken, I can't deal with you. Like not even close, like even the opposite. It's like, oh, you're broken. I get that. I get that. I'm okay right now, so I'll help, you know? And so there's just this like fundamental level of like I feel like accepted for who I am. When I started my unmasking process, I'm going to talk mostly about the autism over the ADHD just because that's like I'm more grounded in that and I really relate to that more for this episode at least. Um, I I changed. I changed and it was very hard for many folks that I was around. They found it really jarring and I mean everything from shifting my speech patterns, which we'll talk about that too, because that's the lineup one, to like I just like I stopped regulating my facial expressions, and it's something I even work with really hard on this podcast because I was very much always regulating and putting on this facial expression that was like, oh, you're liked, and maybe this is the toxic positivity throwback. Um, if you're smiling, you know. Um, but anyway, it just didn't seem to even face Cheryl. Like, and so there's been this like long-term acceptance. I agree with the compound bravery. Bravery plus bravery equals like kick-assitude that we have. Um, I was realizing something as you were talking. So I relate to the concept of being an empath, and that's that I feel other people's emotions incredibly strongly. So usually if I'm in a room of other people, I'll feel I'll just mimic them, like I'll feel their emotions versus my own, and then I'll go away and then feel my own emotions. I just realized I don't do that with you. It's like mind-blowing realization that just happened here for me. Like I actually have my own emotions around you. I don't have your emotions. So that's a whole other cool thing we can talk about. Um, and then I just want to like re-emphasize the equitable effort thing. Um, I know like you're not supposed to be transactional in relationships and all that, but I have a fairly transactional brain. Like my brain is a numerical brain. And so I don't need things to be 50-50, but I need both people to be contributing. And it can go like this over time, right? Like you can not contribute anything for a while and then contribute a bunch. And that happens. And then the last thing I'll say for a non-autistic human, you are a lovely, wonderful, direct communicator. Thank you, New Jersey, or whatever it is. Um, that is so, so, so rare for me to find in people that are holistic. And is that someone will just say what they flip and mean, and I don't have to try and decode it. And I can't tell you like how much stress that takes off of me. Um, so hopefully I've kind of illustrated in talking about what's good, kind of the challenges I've had if you think about the others. I have when I'm showing up 100% as me, when I'm dropping the masks, there are there are very few people that I really want to hang out with. There are very few people that have the level of honesty that I need, the straightforwardness, the acceptance. And so you just kind of shine in all of those areas. Um, you're like one of the people that helps me stay grounded in humanity, and not want to just go live with all the squirrels and the animals in the woods. So I'm gonna cut it off there and open up some discussion so we can have some back and forth. And I wanted to give one example and then I'll turn it over to you. You were talking about honesty and openness. And so for all of you that aren't in our lives every day, like one example of that is Cheryl and I do ecstatic dance sometimes, and we find it like a way to like release energy and feel better. And um, and then we also have a lot of deep conversations. And so we would be having these deep conversations after ecstatic dance. And I was like, I just went and blew off all my steam, and then we are getting into it really deep. And I was like, can we not? Can we just not talk about anything heavy? And I was pretty like direct about it. And I think you could have been like, oh, did I do something wrong? And no. You could have gotten like looping, or
Yeah.
like ruminating in that. And you're like, okay, that's just it. So that's my example for that thing that you shared.
Yeah. Aw, I love you so much. Grr. Um, yeah, just that like being able to the ease of being, I think is just something that really, really shines through for me. Is like I don't have to be anybody. Like you like me for who I am, as I am, flaws and all. You've seen it. Like, I'm sorry, but being as close as we were, especially during lockdown, um, yeah, especially during lockdown, it was. I don't know if there was anyone else I could have gone through that with besides you. Um, so yeah. I mean, like, it just we're Yeah. And I like that you brought up sisterhood because it does feel
Hmm.
like that. It's very much that.
Yeah, and you have sisters, and I've met one of them who is awesome.
Yeah.
Um, I have a weird relationship with sisters. So I have step and half siblings that we don't see eye to eye and we don't talk a lot. So I hadn't ever had a positive experience with sisterhood before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah.
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 Well,
Mhm.
good. Do you feel like talking a little bit about your experience with the balance? So, like, or the paradox of like having friends, the few of us that you really relate to and you feel these things about, and then like having the others too. Like how does that what is that experience like for you, like floating through the world with different types of relationships that work
Yeah.
and don't work?
Yeah. Yeah. So, for me, um, one of the things I learned at an inpatient program I was in a while ago, were these concentric rings of like community. And like for me it was very difficult to have the gradation from this to this. I was like, you're either in my inner circle or you're like the person who I'm nice to, like the bus driver, right? Like or you're like generally in my community. So having those people throughout, I just remember being in there and there's like, we're going to talk about community and building community, and I was like, great. I don't want to talk to people or talk to anyone. Why would I want to build a community that I have to then, for me it was like a lot of, then I have to upkeep it, then I have to give, then I have to, you know what I mean? And just having this like, you know, the situations that we've been in aren't always easy, and like the things that we've had to deal with aren't always easy, but the interaction can glide a little bit with that. And so like those are the people who make it into my inner group, and the people who don't tend to just fall out of that. And like I'm a cutter outer, like I'm very much like, okay, bye, you know what I mean? So like having a medium amount of contact with somebody can sometimes be a little bit difficult for me. um and so that's just kind of my thought process of the balance, is like I being okay with people in my life that aren't, maybe, I don't want to say worthy, but aren't like, don't have the characteristics that I would allow into my like most intimate circle. So I can still have the protection, but it's not like, here's the inner circle, here's the moat, and here's everybody else. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
my balance. What about you, Claire?
that's good stuff. So I, like I said, this is like something that I struggle with. And so I have taken advice from some fabulous autistic content creators and others that about like really what I can do is I can control my environment. The more I can control my environment, um, the more I'm controlling stimulus. And that also includes like who I hang out with, right? So I definitely do have the problem. And then I've just made choices. It's partially choices I made, and it's partially my personality. And I always talk, I'm not saying I'm talking about the autistic side, but my ADHD side is impulsivity and hyperactivity. And so and one way that manifests is where you've already noticed is I overschedule the crap out of myself because I genuinely have a lot of things I like to do. Um, and so yeah, so I need to control my environment. I need to control who I hang out with. I need to spend majority of my social interactions online. and virtual, which is in the neurotypical community or the allistic community, at least, that's like anathema. Like, how dare you? There used to be so many casual comments at my job about how we would all be so much happier when we were spending time together again. I was like, I'm not, you know, and it's not like I don't even need to explain it. It's that's my limits. That's my hypersensitivities. And so that's one way that I do it. Like I'm very selective about who I spend time with, and especially who I spend time with in person. And that is all about me and like learning about how do I stay regulated and how do I stay sane and out of meltdown and out of shutdown. And acting like within my values, acting within my integrity instead of being a crazy person. Um, so there's a lot of folks that I just won't hang out with, and I just won't be around. Um, and that's okay, you know? And I just kind of limit, I just hyper control. And then I need, um, and I was just talking to somebody else about this the other day because I'm getting better at this, but I'm still not that good. If I have really high social times, I need to remember too that I'm going to need to be alone for a while, right after that. So that's kind of how I manage it. And and I'm really grateful for online communication because I can then at least have some level of communication with folks. Like we play, Cheryl's in a fabulous player, but we play a lot of role-playing games, right? We're playing Call of Cthulhu right now, and that can all be done online with this great group of people, and everybody can be in the coziness of their own home, and we can still be together and be social and be creative. So yeah. So I'm thinking I drew this just on the fly, right? Concentric circles.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking this would be a fun experiment for folks.
Yeah.
You and I might have a good understanding of this, but let's do it anyway, right? Because
Yeah.
who knows, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I think this way too. So if this is what you're working with, and if you are different than us and you need more circles, add more circles, right?
Yeah.
If you are like Sheryl was saying, and you don't even want the moat, I'm thinking of like, this is the inner circle, this is the moat. Maybe you don't like, if you want to just pull out that one and then everybody's out here, change this diagram to fit you
Yeah.
and do a little on the balcony thinking, right? So don't judge yourself. Don't judge yourself. Think you're like up there on the balcony looking down. And what is your friend situation like? What is your
Yeah.
acquaintance situation like?
Yeah.
Let's just spend the next 2 weeks just kind of noticing what works for you and what doesn't.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
and
I
like
don't,
mine look, right here,
yeah.
it's like the inner circle is like your very best friend, and like the outer
Hmm.
circle is like the people in your community that like you see occasionally, like the mailman. You know what I mean? Or
Yes.
somebody like
Yes.
you're someone at a restaurant who's who's been your waiter a couple of times or whatever, right? And then
Yeah.
inside from that is like your doctor, right? Like where you be
Yeah.
more open with them, but
Yeah.
like less open than you would like you wouldn't be like, oh, I've got this lump on my, I mean maybe you would,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and then like and
Hmm.
friends and acquaintances and things like that, and it just gets inner and inner.
Yeah, where do coworkers fall
Yeah.
if you work with other people? And I think that's okay. Like that's enough of an experiment for the next 2 weeks. If you're craving more, if you're already like, no, I got this and you want more, then I would challenge you to think about, are there any places where you feel like there is boundary breach or that you're acting in a way that's not, and mostly speaking to my neurodivergent friends, like, is there a place where your masking is higher and just kind of noticing that. So that's another angle you could pull into it.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. So have fun with the circles and let's just chat for a second before we say bye. Let's just chat about where folks can find us. We would love to interact with you all either here on YouTube or in our various places. So, Sheryl, where could they learn more about you and your work?
You can find me on CherylTheNanny.com. Um, so hop on over there, and if you like what you see, feel free to give me an email or anything like that.
Nice. And my website is wizards-way.my, Kajabi, it's down below.com, kajabi.com. Substack is my favorite place to write because they have such a friendly format, and that's at Wizard Claire. But I also show up on LinkedIn and I'm playing around with being on Instagram, but I don't love it. So uh, that's Claire as a character. So again, I would love to chat with anybody about any of these topics. These are all topics that are true to both of our hearts that we're putting out here. So it would not be a burden to reach out. All right.
All
All right.
right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Thanks for being in our circles.
Bye.